ladies and gentlemen, the zombie genre is one of those genres of films that is arguably known to be oversaturated, when the reality is there's only like 3 or 4 zombie movies that one may consider to be good zombie movies. And I think that's pretty interesting, to say the least. Like, people claim it's oversaturated, and then in reality there's not that many to even list. So I wanted to talk about the one and only zombie movie that I do genuinely think is just in a league of its own. It's the best zombie movie. It's, in my opinion, one of the best horror movies out there. And this is a widely known concept. This isn't some, like, game changer or anything. It's Dawn of the Dead. It's the original Dawn of the Dead, the 1970s Dawn of the Dead. Now, a lot of you may only know the 2004 or 2005, one of those years, remake of Dawn of the Dead. The one where it's with the guy from Modern Family. That's the one most commonly known by the youngins. But let me tell you, for y'all oldies like me, Dawn of the Dead by George A. Romero stands in a league of its own. Now, ladies and gentlemen, do not get used to the suits in the videos. I'm only wearing this because I came from work coming in hot with this on my mind. So I figured, why not just talk about it now? No time to change. Let's just bring this up. I am not pulling a review bra, and I'm not going to be wearing suits in all of my videos. Absolutely not.
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
That being said, ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to take this time to discuss my favorite zombie movie ever, George A. Romero's Dawn of the Dead. Now, Dawn of the Dead was a much anticipated movie because we waited literally 10 years. I mean, I wasn't even a figment of my parents' imagination then, but regardless, people waited literally a decade for the follow-up to Night of the Living Dead, which was the cult classic that created the zombie genre as we know it. And oh boy, did George A. Romero deliver. Now, there's a ton of videos out there on the history of this movie and why specifically you most likely won't find it on Netflix anytime soon. I'm not going to bore you with those details. There's a ton of videos out there that dive deep into them. Essentially, if you want to do a quick TLDR, the rights for the movie are restricted by one of the people who worked on the original Dawn of the Dead, so that's why they're being held and you can't see it in streaming. And as far as everything else and the history of it goes, there's a lot there. It's a whole complicated thing. The production was pretty interesting. They had some guy from Italy who helped produce the movie or something like that. I'm bored even talking about this. All I really care about is giving some praise where it's due. Dawn of the Dead does what no other zombie movie does at all. It has the exact right atmosphere, the exact right characters, the exact right feel, and I'd argue even the gore and the special effects and all of that is exactly what we want. Now, I know that's a contentious point. People don't like the blue zombies. I don't blame them in that regard. It's an interesting take, but for some reason it just works so well in this movie. And you know what else really just works in this movie, even though like it shouldn't work, is Dario Argento's choice to choose Goblin as the artist to make the music for this movie. The music is weird. It feels like a weird alien sci-fi sort of just... it doesn't sound right for a zombie movie, but it works so well that it becomes, oh, okay, like, this is a zombie. This makes sense. Like, I don't know how to describe that. In paper and in hearing it, it kind of, like, shouldn't work, but it does. It has like an arcadey feel, I guess. I don't know. It just, something with the synthesizers and the bass in the music just works so well. Oh, it's so good. I mean, it's so iconic in the horror genre. But for those of you who don't know and have never seen the movie, let's take a trip down memory lane. We open up to a shot of a rug, a 1970s maroon rug, and then we pan out to pure pandemonium as a news crew is chaotically reporting any updates to the pandemic that is happening in real time. They have doctors on the air, everyone's shouting over one another, and it's a really, obviously, as mentioned, chaotic environment because no one knows what to do. There's no rule. Martial law has been taken into effect. The world is slowly crumbling as the military is being outrun by a zombie apocalypse. And as this is going on, we get the introduction of two of our main characters, Francine and Flyboy. Now, Flyboy, obviously, by his name, flies, and he's a boy. So he has a helicopter, and he's telling Francine, his girlfriend, almost wife, that they need to get out of there tonight. So Flyboy tells her that she has to meet him outside at dawn and they're getting out of there. And this is all going on while simultaneously we have a side story of the SWAT team going in and raiding a building that is raided by zombies. And we get a little bit of dated dialogue here. I mean, there are some pretty non-PC moments, should I say. If you look at it now, it's like, probably shouldn't have said that. Whatever. Regardless, we get a lot of that going on in that side plot, but in that side plot, we get the introduction of two other characters, and those two characters are Roger and Peter. They are both in the SWAT team, and it's kind of confusing. Like, honestly, the names of these characters has always just thrown me off. I don't know. I've seen this movie like probably 40 times, no joke, and I still do not know the names of these characters because they're just honestly so forgettable. They're not like characters that stick around in a franchise. They're just one-off story characters. Their names are very bland. Roger is Roger, Peter is Peter. I'm gonna forget that in about 5 minutes. Regardless, after the raid ensues from the SWAT team, the two of them make it out by meeting each other downstairs in a basement where all the sick people are. They end up meeting each other and going out to safety together. Somehow, one of them, and I can't remember who, but one of them knows about Flyboy and the helicopter, so they meet up with Flyboy and they all escape together. Now, along the way, they run into a mysterious character named Joe Pilato. Actually, that's not his name. He's just an off-brand police officer. But Joe Pilato is very known for playing Captain Rhodes in Day of the Dead, the sequel to this movie. We'll get into that when we do a Day of the Dead review later. But after they meet Joe Pilato, they all go on to the helicopter. Except for Joe Pilato, who is looking for a boat and some cigarettes.
You got any cigarettes?
But anyway, regardless, a little bit of chaos ensues along the way. They end up stopping for fuel. Peter has to shoot some kid zombies, which is pretty sad and crazy and interesting. There's a little bit of chaos there because Flyboy points a gun accidentally at Peter, so Peter points the gun back at him, and then they get back on the air. I was going to say on the road, but back on the air, and they fly to one of those indoor shopping malls.
Looks like a shopping center. One of those big indoor malls.
Which, might I add, is kind of funny the way they say it. They pass the indoor shopping mall and they're like, looks like one of those indoor malls.
One of those big indoor malls.
Now, honestly, I'm not even going to bother to try to look up the history. I don't know when malls started to become pretty famous. I don't know if this was like a new thing back in the 70s, even though I don't think it was. I don't know. That being said, I just find the dialogue funny. They're like, it looks like a mall.
One of those big indoor malls.
But anyway, they land on top of the mall, and then from there, the movie becomes the best zombie plot ever. They raid a mall, they make the mall their own, and they defend the mall. And it is so amazing on so many levels because just number one, the concept of that alone is crazy. From those of you who may know that George A. Romero came up with the idea for this atmosphere, for the film, the setting, by literally passing them all and being like, wow, that'd be a cool place to hide out in a zombie apocalypse. And legitimately it would. It's absolutely awesome. Like, I don't understand why we don't use this atmosphere more in mainstream zombie shows and games, honestly. Like, imagine if Call of Duty Zombies had a mall map. That would be so sick. Like, and not only that, just in general, like, we brought something like that to The Walking Dead, or we brought something like that to, I don't know, a World War Z sequel or something. I don't care. Yeah, it's like copying, sure, but it is literally the most awesome setting I could think of outside of like a school or an underground bunker or something like that. It's a really badass setting to have a zombie apocalypse because you'd go nuts. But eventually, the cast and the crew of these people, they do go nuts because they've spent a lot of their time being mass consumers in the mall, which is juxtaposition to the zombies that are in the mall who are there by instinct because they're mass consumers too. The point I'm trying to make overall is Peter, Roger, Flyboy, and Fran eventually get really bored and have nothing to do with their lives and realize, like, what have they done with their lives by being in this mall? But who cares? Because the premise is so awesome in and of itself. They literally have the keys to the kingdom and they make it completely safe. They rid all the zombies of it, and just as they start to do that, a biker gang comes through. The biker gang comes through, raids the mall, and some chaos ensues there. Oh, and I forgot to mention, along the way, we have Roger go a little bit chaotic as they're clearing the mall. He ends up getting bit and dying, and he is one of the coolest looking zombies ever, might I add. But Peter has to shoot him once he comes back from the dead, which was pretty awesome to see. That whole plot was amazing. There literally isn't a moment of them clearing the mall and of that whole sequence that isn't enjoyable. It's genuinely just fun. But anyway, after Roger's death and all the chaos ensues with the raiders coming into the mall, the bike crew and all of that, which is Tom Savini's crew, which is pretty interesting because Tom Savini is the makeup and effects guy of this movie. So it's pretty interesting. It's like, oh, we have Joe Pilato. Oh, we have Tom Savini. It's just funny. But regardless, Tom Savini's biker crew comes in, they raid the mall, and in doing so, they end up shooting Flyboy in the arm, who was stuck in an elevator shaft. And then, as he's stuck in the elevator shaft with his arm shot, in a white shirt just like this, all the zombies come in for him, they eat his legs, and we wait, I'd say, like, I don't know how much time passed, but eventually time passed, and then the doors open to the elevator, and we get literally the coolest zombie ever. Like, the coolest walk, the coolest look, the coolest aesthetic, everything in Flyboy Zombie. No one's replicated it, even in shows like The Walking Dead. Flyboy as a zombie is purely iconic, and there's no way around that. It's just so awesome. But anyway, we have Peter and Fran as the two remaining survivors after Roger died, and now Flyboy is dead. And they have to see Flyboy come in instinctually, and they shoot him, and then they fly away to safety. It's pretty crazy, honestly, because the mall at that point got raided, so it was pretty crazy to see that the two of them got out. They have a little bit of fuel, and Peter's like, all right. I don't know. That was a really bad, rough synopsis of the film. It's just one of those movies you have to see, and the beauty of all of these restrictions and there not being access to this movie, like, literally anywhere. You can't find it anywhere, except you can find it on YouTube, and I never condone doing anything like that. I really don't. I'm not trying to push piracy or anything like that, but there's literally nowhere else to find it, and you could find the full movie for free on YouTube. I'm just saying. I mean, like, that's how you know it's messed up, when you could find the entire film. And actually, you could find the director's cut of the movie, you could find the theatrical release, and I'm pretty sure the Italian release, all on YouTube. Pretty nuts. I mean, what more can I say that hasn't already been said about this movie? It is the most iconic zombie film ever, mainly because of the setting, but also because the characters. Something about them, even though they are forgettable in the grand scheme of things, they just worked so well together. The story is fun, it feels like you're living vicariously through them, the music is iconic as all hell, and just everything about this. This is one of the only movies ever that is way better than the original. And now I get it. Dawn of the Dead is a sequel, so Night of the Living Dead is known to be iconic. I feel like there's people out there going to be like, how dare you say it's better than Night of the Living Dead, but realistically, it literally is. I felt like Night of the Living Dead, yes, while it's a cult classic, it established the genre, so it has to be a classic and all of that. But it's not really, like, that fun to watch. It's not, like, fun. It's a little boring, if I'm being honest. Dawn of the Dead isn't that. It is a blast. It builds upon the original premise that we got in Night of the Living Dead, and it just does an excellent job. It, hands down, is the best zombie movie ever. Way better than the remake. I actually hate the remake. I think it's a terrible movie, personally. I don't like the music. I don't like the cinematography. It feels very Hollywood, whereas this feels very independent, and I love that. I love a good independent horror film This movie delivers on all fronts. R.I.P. George A. Romero. I know this video was kind of like all over the place and a little chaotic, but I really just wanted to get this out. I fucking love Dawn of the Dead. I absolutely love it. If you haven't seen the original, you should stop whatever you're doing right now and go find it on YouTube and watch it. You really should. It's that good. And with all that out of the way, if you've seen it, let's start a healthy conversation down there in the comments. I'd love to see what comes up. And again, thank you so much for watching this video. Until the next one, I'll talk to you later. Peace out.
Bye. Have a beautiful time.